All right, welcome everyone. Another week, another Natural Ones, joined as always by Victor Gorchev.
Hoi iedereen.
And joined with Diversity and Dragons. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. I've kind of wanted to have you on for a while to talk about whatever, the nonsense in the hobby, good games, all that good stuff. So glad to have you on. People in the chat seem excited about it as well. So thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me. It's a real honor. I kind of been chipping away a little bit, at your channel. I have a lot of respect for what both you guys do. You guys do good content on here, but you're also producing stuff.
Yeah,
which is important.
Thank you. Yeah.
Got to make that parallel economy.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I kind of came in through, I guess my inspiration, was kind of just following along with Comicsgate. And, what those guys had to go through. And it is sort of like, all right, we can't rely on the mainstream anymore. So we got to start doing our own thing. So
yeah,
in many ways, this neck of the woods is set up, I think, a little bit better for that, don't you? A lot of people were already doing it,
Yeah. At least in RPGs, it's very like a creative spot for, Vic is a totally, I think Vic's more creative than me, but bigger idea guy than me. But yeah, it's never been easier than now, I think, to self-publish your own stuff and like get your stuff out there. So, why not?
Yeah. There's a few groups that are doing it now. Like you've got the Iron Age for like self-published like fantasy novels and stuff like that. That's becoming like a big thing. It's basically like, the fantasy novel version of Comicsgate. You've got our side of like the OSR and stuff like that. So people are just kind of like tired of like being waiting on like the powers that be to make good stuff, and they're just like, well, they're not. So I guess we'll just do it ourselves.
Do you guys see like kind of a parallel? Like you mentioned, kind of like a parallel economy, but almost like just a parallel way of gaming, because just the sort of the way things are going, it seems like there's already a schism, between a lot of, I guess a lot of what a lot of people, I guess, playing like 5th edition and all of its, offshoots, like Tales of the Valiant, we learned is going to be pretty similar. I think we're just going to end up kind of like there's going to be that. And then sort of like everything else, don't you?
I think so. I think that just comes with the territory. I like the phrase Max from Legion of Myth uses, where, D&D 5th edition is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. When you walk into a gaming store, that's what's everywhere on the walls, for better or worse. That's what's there. And that's how it was even when I got into the hobby. I got into the hobby in the mid-2000s. Like 4th edition was just like the thing. So I walked into a game store and that's what's on the shelf. I want to play D&D. I'm going to grab it. Even to a greater extent, that's what it is today. I guess my hope is that people graduate to other RPGs. Not that there's anything like, I don't want to shame people. If you play 5e, I've said this many times, and you enjoy it, good on you. But I think it's enriching for people to understand that there's more stuff out there than just that.
But you're right to note the built-in advantage. I mean, it's a powerful weapon, and it sort of is kind of being weaponized, I think, by them. That reach. Now, look, I mean, it's only going to last as long as people realize, like, man, this stuff is shit. I mean, maybe the rules are okay. A lot of the normies might not pick up on some of the woke stuff in the rules, but man, when they start going into some of these adventures, that's where the insanity really kicks in.
Mm-hmm. Well, even the rules are being dismantled now with with 1D&D and stuff. They're like changing them. And I play 5e. My group are for the most part normies. Most of them are like left leaning, and they have like zero interest in like the new version of 5e. They're like, yeah, no, we're sticking with the 2014 one basically. So even they are like, yeah, no, thank you. So I have no idea what their plan is here, but I don't know.
And I think my group would have too, because we just recently switched too. I mean, it was okay. 5e is a decent rule system for low levels, but man, once you get to like those 5th, 6th level, it's these characters like exponentially go up in power, and you're starting to throw things at them that you never dreamed you'd have to. And like, holy shit, better up the hit points with this, better up the numbers here.
And then half the time they still beat the shit out of it. So
yeah, I was just saying, I kind of had like a heart to heart. I said, guys, I said I'd be lying if I said I didn't, I don't want to support this company, but I said as a GM, and I've got a plenty of experience, back to the 1980s. I'm like this system is becoming untenable at this level. And they could kind of sense it too. They were realizing like stuff that they thought was going to be a hard battle was just almost a cakewalk. And I'm doing my best trying to not just to drop, save or die things on them. But man, it's like you get to a point. Usually that level is like a lot higher than like 6th or 7th, which is where we were at.
Yeah, and you get there so quick to higher. Well, it seems like you get there pretty quick to like level 4, 5, 6. It's not hard to do that in a fairly short amount of time. I'm running like it started as a BX or a basic fantasy role playing game, 3rd edition game, and it's sort of morphed more into a rule encyclopedia game at this point. But we've been over. It's been about a year and almost 6 months, so a year and a half that we've had the same campaign going, and the guys are barely level 5. So like that longevity is just it's just built in the old school, and that was my biggest gripe when I was playing 5e was I just didn't have that. I'd get to a point where, like you guys said, where they're just beating everything up. There's no challenge. It's boring for me. It's not fun for them either. I think a lot of players think they know what they want. And then when they get it, they realize it's not what they really want. They want this like power gaming. I want to have all the abilities, all the powers, and I want to be able to beat everything. And then, I don't know, you end up like One Punch Man, and you're like, oh, I'm bored.
Basically in 5e, like a level 6 fighter or like higher than that is like Captain America. And old school, like, you'd be like Sir Lancelot or something. You're like a badass knight, but an ogre might still just smash your head in. But like in 5e, you're just like, being a superhero basically. You're an Avenger within a fantasy setting. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I run a fairly big group now too, and I think my group is savvy enough to know that they've mentioned too that the mid levels are usually the best. Those are the ones they like the most. You kind of work your way up from the start, and then it's kind of like the middle. Sometimes the middle movie in a trilogy is kind of the heart and soul. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It's getting a little esoteric there, but I think that they realize that, and when they were starting to see the damage they could do, I think they were like, okay, it's time for a change. So I was very glad. I have a very good group.
A version you might want to check out. It's still 5e, but it caps at level 6, and it's all a bit more like low fantasy gritty. It's Brancolonia. We reviewed that on this channel, and that looked like really fun. It's like it's 5e but like depowered basically. So and you're like a badass like Renaissance like mercenary instead of like Captain America.
Nice.
So
yeah, I love checking that stuff out. Yeah, for sure.
It plays on like that Italian spaghetti film vibe, So what's that guy you like from the Westerns?
Bud Spencer.
There's like pretty much a Bud Spencer class. So it's pretty funny. We got some comments here. Let's see. So Malachi says, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my group. I think it may be Castles and Crusades with some stuff pulled from old school centrals.
That's what we switched
Eric
to.
C. Yeah, I was going to say I brought that up because I know you switched to CNC.
Yeah, as much as I do appreciate the simplicity of BX, and I think the other one we were maybe considering was DCC. Those I see the value in those, but I can also see the player's point of view, and they're like, hey, look, we want a little bit more to hang our hat on. I think that was kind of the consensus. So I think CNC is kind of a perfect compromise.
Yeah.
It's just old school enough, where it's you're not dealing with the shit that you're dealing with in 3rd edition and above, as far as the just insane escalation. But there's some choice there too.
There's some crunch and choice there for players that enjoy that kind of stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
That choices that matter.
Yeah,
we got a super chat too from Zolian Podcast, from one non-woke RPG YouTuber to another. This is the crossover I wasn't expecting, but it's the kind of content I subscribe for. Hope you have more. So,
yeah,
thank you.
Thank
I
you,
will
Zolian.
try to have more. See, Malachi also said, I always wanted to play D&D, but we ended up playing 5e. One of my players, after looking at old school essentials. So, yeah, I think I get when people don't like the clones, the old school versions. I had a player, one of the players in my group, he's playing a dwarf. He was not really, he started in 5e, and I was kind of questioning when I invited him, because he's a good friend, but I was like, is he going to be down for this? Because he's so used to being this overpowered, awesome person just from like level 1, and of course they all got their asses kicked by thieves in the first encounter, and had to go back to town and lick their wounds. But he loved it. That first session, even though they lost, he thought it was great, and I think for him it clicked in his head, like, in all of my 5e games I've been playing, I've never been challenged as a player until right now. Because they all did it. They all just wanted to bum rush the bandits and fight them. And I was like, guys, this is BX. It's not 5e. There's only 3 of you. And you left town without hirelings or anything. Like I don't know what you're expecting is going to happen, but there's 9 bandits. I don't know.
Yeah,
so they got their asses kicked and got
bad odds. Yep.
I think that's actually a fairly common story, though, that if people are actually willing to give the old school play a chance, they find that they actually enjoy it. I think a lot of like the resistance against the old school that you see on like places like Twitter is more ideological driven, rather than like them not generally enjoying the game, because they haven't even tried it. They just know that OSR, those are just a bunch of right wing Yahtzees, right? Okay, yeah, well, I'm not playing that, so
Yep.
I was gonna bring that up. Old school games and whatnot have a sort of in some people's mind, which I don't care about their opinion to begin with, because they're losers, has a stigma of being like, all the ists and phobes and everything. And it's like, nah, like on our Guilded server, we have people that are left leaning on our Guilded server that hang out with us, and like we all shitpost together and have a good time. So it's like, it's funny how diverse the OSR actually is, and how much like the Borg, the normie mainstream segment of the hobby is,
Oh, for sure. You just got to lean into it too. Don't let them define you. Just laugh at them. I mean, that's one thing I saw with Comicsgate. Even that name, associate. Oh my God, that's just too close to Gamergate. And I mean, everything they said, and they're like, screw it. It's like we're gonna lean into this. We'll put it on merchandise. We'll proudly wear it. So yeah. I mean, we should all be proudly OSR, and like you said, John, just laugh at the groupthink mentality of the people that do that, throw those canards at us.
Yeah, I mean, I just had a thought and it just left my brain. I'm still coming off of putting a 3-year-old down for bed right now. I'm too young for Alzheimer's. This is ridiculous. Dementia.
It's a sleep deprivation. I remember it well. So.
Yeah. The Borg, but no 7 of 9s. Yeah, they don't have any. There's no hot Borgs. They're all.
Yeah.
They're all land whales with purple.
Yeah, I was
hair.
Gonna say they're all blue-haired land whales. Do you guys follow Chrissy Mayer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I don't
Well-
really watch her, or I think I follow her on Twitter. I don't really consume her content as much. She's
Yeah.
funny though, from what I see.
She is, yeah. She's okay, and I mean, it's you can tell she's just kind of this. I don't want to say like woke, but kind of woke, female comedian, and here she is, kind of waking up. So I think she's doing an okay job. But yeah, she got heckled recently by a couple of people who were calling her an isterophobe, and yeah, she kept labeling them like blue-haired land whales as they were leaving or something. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, I used to be subscribed to Anthony Cumia from Old Opie and Anthony,
Yeah.
and she basically came out of that quote, so that's what I know her from. And then she just started
Yeah.
showing up on the Friday night tights and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember when she started too. She kind of started small and just
Yeah.
kind of worked her way up. So yeah, good for her. Hey, look, any voice that's not trying to tear us down collectively, because we all sort of are on the same side. We're all trying to fight against the lunatics.
Well, yeah,
in our own way.
I kind of wanted to talk about that too, because like your channel is definitely like you kind of lean more into the culture stuff. I dabble in it a little bit. I have my very like wrong think opinions that people don't like, and I'm on many block lists. But like you lean really into it, and I know some people might chafe them the wrong way, because whenever I do it, I always have people say like, "Oh, why are you talking about this?" And I don't know if you get that too. Why are you talking about this? And to me, I think oftentimes it's important. Like, I'm glad that there's guys like you talking about this kind of stuff, because there need to be some punches back, I think. And because I think being quiet and just pretending like everything's fine is sort of what has led to the position the hobby is in right now at this moment. So
you're probably doing it okay too, by kind of picking and choosing your spots, because you're also a producer. You and Victor are both producers, and maybe you want to let people know that firmly you're on the side of good, but you don't have to get in the mud like I do sometimes. I'm prepared to take those slings and arrows, but I actually get it from both sides. I got a comment on one of my videos like, man, I miss when your videos, you're talking about this outrage stuff, and I miss when you're talking about OSR theory. And I'm like, my channel has never been about OSR theory. And then, I get, the other end where I will talk about game related stuff, and they'll be like, when are you going to cover this? So it's,
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm pissing them off. Maybe I'm doing something right. I always try to balance it. If you look at my, the timeline of my videos, you'll see a distinct pattern, unless it's something like the OSR or the OGL fiasco where I kind of had to do a couple. I will try to do like a purposeful, like, okay, this sort of happened. The crazies are doing this, but next video, let's bring it back. Let's go,
Sure.
let's talk about something game wise. Can I give a tip? Now I'm starting to do, some live plays. So I got those coming
Awesome.
out almost weekly. Now, I don't want to be just, the outrage person, and if that pisses some people off that I'm not that full time, I'll accept it, and I understand, but maybe you guys can piece together, from other people who also cover this kind of stuff. But I don't want to just do that, because I know where it leads. You'll just burn yourself out, and I don't want to be one of those guys that's like constantly on Twitter all the time. I'm on it enough, and
it's super tempting. Like when you look at the YouTube algorithm, when you make a video that covers some sort of stupid thing that Watsy's doing, like your views are, it's the most viewed video that you've released that month. People, it gets all this interaction. People are commenting, and so it's sort of like it's what people seem to want to consume. But like, it's not necessarily the kind of content, like, obviously, like you want to always make, and I want to always make either. So sometimes when I make a video about something controversial, like I'm editing the video and I'm like, I know how this is going to go. I'm going to have a week of like super high traffic to my channel, which is awesome. I love people getting eyes on my channel and maybe seeing Vic stuff or other people's stuff that are connected to me as well, and signal boosting them as well. But man, it's going to be like a week or two of just dealing with the most like mouth breather comments in the comment section as well. So that's my perspective on it. So like for people out there, when you see me make a video where I'm covering something like the recent Leyline Press thing, for instance, you know, I don't enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it must be said, it must be done.
Yeah, you made a good video on that. I'm glad you did. And honestly, that's kind of why we were talking backstage. But you know, this is one I'm going to let go because I think it's already been covered pretty well. You know, I may mention it, but I'm not out to do a video on it or anything.
I will talk about stuff on live streams because you're just having a conversation, and I'm not going to sit there like, no, I'm not going to talk about this. So I'll mention the culture war and drama and all that stuff. Yeah. But my Twitter, I pretty much only talk about the stuff I'm doing and about gaming in general, or the occasional like shit post or whatever. I just want to be known for. At the end of the day, I want to be known for like my games, and that's just what I want to do. I want to write games, and my games aren't political at all. Like, I mean, you know, people that say that everything is political will claim they are, but those are they need to touch grass. But yeah, no, just I want to make my games, and that's it. And yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. And
yeah,
I would say if you want to stay around a long time, you got to be happy doing what you're doing. And if you're dreading starting to do stuff, it's time for a reality check and see, you know, maybe shift focus a little bit. So
yeah,
it's kind of how I always viewed it. You know, I started small. You know, I purposely. I had the perfect hook. You know, I just did an entire review of Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel because it's one of the worst products ever produced. And I mean, it's there right in front of you. Yeah. It's like, my God, you have that opener where it's literally just Marxism, and I'm just like, well, I'm like, you know what? I do want to fight a little bit of the culture war, and I have been DMing 30 years straight. You know, 40 years total. So I definitely, this is one thing in my life that I do. And, you know, I am certainly not the best DM out there, you know, watch the live plays, you know, for proof of that. But, you know, I do know something about DMing. I know something about keeping the action going and trying to keep players interested. They do keep coming back. So, but
have you been featured by Shona yet for your live plays? I think that's like a mark of like basically.
Oh, does he tear people apart or something?
Oh yeah, like he has very specific ideas on how role playing and like should go, and if you don't follow them exactly, he will just like tear you apart. So that's like his thing. So yeah,
I've seen him around. I don't know much about his channel. I don't want to cast aspersions. I just assume that, you know, we're gonna get excoriated somehow. But you know, if you watch my live plays. If you gamed at all, I mean, just around a table, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see you're going to see my friends, my wife, you know, now my daughter and her friend. We're just around trying to keep a story going, you know, and it's not a bunch of like critical role, like, you know, roll and then everybody's like, oh, you know, oh my God, you know, all this fake enthusiasm.
No, it's a real game.
yeah, but it's like we make jokes. You know, there's a couple of zingers in there that crack us up, you know, and that's not because the camera's there. That's just what we do every week. So, you know, I don't know. It seems like a few people like it. You know, they're getting decent views for, you know, 3-hour videos.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think there needs to be more actual plays like that. Like anyone that has opinions on what actual play should be like, whatever, you know, their views be damned, because there needs to be like realistic. I think there needs to be a refocus of like what a realistic game is, and you know, I've said this before on stream. A lot of games are like, you know, I'm running you guys through a game, and I describe the dungeon room. I'm like, you guys enter the dungeon room, and there's lichen on the walls creeping down, and in the center of the room, you can see what appears to be a crushed skeleton with a chest beyond it, and you know, there appears to be a series of levers and pulleys in the room as well. And then I say that, and then you guys are like dead silent for like a good few, like 30 seconds, as you guys are taking that in and thinking. That's because you guys are thinking about the situation in front of you and the problem that I presented you, and that's okay. Like that awkward silence is okay, but obviously from a production standpoint, that's not the best thing for viewers. But it's like, I don't run games for an audience. I'm running it for the players that are at the table, and you guys are sitting here thinking intently. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, hurry up, guys! You're being awkwardly silent on my actual play. You know, like,
it's okay. For us, it's, well, first of all, I may not like Critical Role, but I have a lot of respect for how those guys technically bring off their thing, because I'm running this in my basement, and it's a live play, and it's like everybody wants to hear what the viewers want to hear what everybody has to say. So I got 8 microphones now, and getting them all to like you said, John, it's like you want everybody to play as normal. And I think more or less, we are, but occasionally I'll be like, could just get a little closer so, people can hear you. Cause they'll be talking off here like this, and just to try to I'm hoping that after time, it'll just kind of be natural, because, that they've always said like, man, I wish people could see how we game. We've had this campaign going for, coming up on 30 years, but boy, is it a technical, I don't want to say a nightmare. That would be a little too much. I've solved some of it, but man, it takes a lot of post-production to sync it up and make it work. And,
yeah.
I've never tried that. I've posted my actual plays, but it's just, voice chat and Foundry. Like it's even more primitive in a lot of respects than what you're doing or what some people do in person actual plays. So sometimes I don't even have our faces, it's just our voice, and you just see the little 3D dice roll across the screen or something like that. So
but sometimes that's all people want, they just kind of want something to throw on in the background, and I'm just going to listen to this, or even it's not even an insult, but I just kind of want to fall asleep to this, and it's like that's perfectly fine. If anybody wants to fall asleep to my stuff, go right ahead.
I think people enjoyed our Lord of the Rings one that we did, even though that one was very amateurish. There was audio issues. There was all sorts of stuff that went wrong. And we got some really good feedback on it, because it was basically this is what an actual game looks like.
Yeah.
Shit's going to go wrong.
You did one around the table, Victor?
No, there was just us on stream with Foundry and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I don't get real life games. I'm Dutch. Nobody plays this shit here. I'm the only one in the Netherlands who plays D&D apparently. So
it might be for the best, because then they're not playing 5e. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's like the 80s all over again over here.
Yeah.
You play what?
Yeah.
Swirly in the toilet.
Rob was great in our. He really got into character. His little hobbit. I think his name was Bungo or something like that.
Yeah,
Bongo?
something like
Bungo the Hobbit. I don't remember, but we need to get that going again. I think we're going to switch, because I'm done with 5e. I don't want to. This Adventures in Middle Earth is a 5e based game, so we're going to move to the One Ring. I think eventually we'll get back to new episodes of that. We only did one episode, and then I was going to do more, and then the OGL happened, and I'm like, I don't want to play 5e anymore.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of MERP, Middle Earth role playing from back in the day? Rollmaster.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
That's those legendary charts, which I think occasionally we just bust them out. Like, hey, we need a good critical hit. What happens on a critical? So we just, get one of those arms law or whatever it was, back then.
I made a meme a while back. That meme of the girls, one of them's whispering to the other girls, and the other girl's like,
yes.
And it was in quotations, he can calculate XP and MERP in his head. And they're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, very very crunchy game, as they say. But I never played the actual game, but we would just raid those darn charts. They were legendary. Yeah. Shadow Dark has a ton of charts too. Have you guys picked that up?
We did a scan through on stream of the quick start rules. I was sort of torn on it, because I have so many other games that I have here on my desk. I personally think this is superior to Shadow Dark, in my opinion, just my personal opinion. But this isn't as entry level maybe as Shadow Dark is.
Right.
And anything that's gonna get normies or people to get interested in at least an old school flavor, I'm 100% okay with.
It's kind of how I view it too.
Yeah, we reviewed it on this channel, and I actually recently wrote a small supplement for it.
Oh yeah.
So
I saw that.
Yeah. So I went through the book a bit. It looks alright. Some of the stuff in it I actually really liked. I like that it's actually it's lethal, like an actual proper OSR game. So
I'm glad she put that rule in, because if you looked at the the quick start or whatever, it's like, oh, the power nap, heal everything. And then she did release, for the backers, the full rule book, early stage or whatever. I'm sure it might change a little, but yeah, she put in all those options to kind of make it more OSR.
Yeah.
I don't know why she's being smart. She wants to get some of that 5e crowd, but I think you can tell her heart's probably a little bit more into the OSR than it is, 5e.
Yeah,
she's certainly not afraid to talk to people like Venger and stuff like that.
Sure. Kelsey seems like a nice person, and so like she seems to respond like even when people go at her with class. So like I think that's great, and someone like that is, I can probably guess what her politics are, but she is a normal person.
She doesn't wear them. Yeah, she doesn't wear them, and she doesn't make a bunch of social statements.
Well, reading between the lines, she doesn't even seem like woke. She might be like liberal or something, but I don't think she's like really woke.
Yep. Yeah. So, like you said, it's anytime you can encourage something like that, and it is a big story. It's kind of this RPG game out of the blue that makes 1.5 million. I mean, I made a video on why I thought, and look, let's face it, some of it is the fact that she's a young lady, and it's not very typical for a young lady to make a game, kind of soup to nuts, but there's something to it. It's got a good look.
Yeah,
I think that. Yeah, I think that people way underestimate that. It's like a unified look, and kind of a unified theme. Some people might say, "Oh, it's kind of cheesy." It's like, well, okay, maybe not, but it certainly brought the eyeballs in and brought the money in. So,
I mean, I could see running a Shadow Dark, like if you want to get your players to play this. Someone asked what this was. This white box, fantastic medieval adventure game. It's essentially a retro clone of original Dungeons and Dragons, so 3 little brown books. You want to get someone to play this or regular OD&D or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons or Old School Essentials or something like that. Some people are just too scared to just take the dive into OSC or into something like that. So I feel like Shadow Dark to me is almost like Castles and Crusades, where it's this adjacent game that is a good entry point into it. Or if you just can't convince your players to pick up OSE, they're like, we refuse. We don't want to play that. Yeah. But you as a GM are like, I want to play old school games, Castles and Crusades or Shadow Dark or one of those games where you could be like, okay, well, both of us can kind of scratch that itch.
It's a compromise.
Yeah. So I see that aspect of it.
It also appears just to be like a really good like pickup game. It's like you're bored, you're hanging out. It's just like, hey, you guys want to do like a one shot, like do a quick dungeon crawl. You grab Shadow Dark, you make a character in like literally like 2 minutes, and you can go. And it boils down to like a lot of mechanics, like to like advantage, disadvantage, which I actually like that from 5e. It makes things a lot easier. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is one of the things in 5e that I never really had a problem with. It's a fairly decent mechanic, and it's so simple, Yeah. And I had heard like, well, they borrowed it from somewhere. I don't even know where. But still,
I think there was a monster in like one of the older editions that basically had like an ability that was basically advantage, disadvantage.
It was called the Tween. It's in the Fiend Folio for first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay, yeah. Which I have. I'm going to look it up right after. I don't remember seeing that part though.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, it's like an extra dimensional being that kind of that attaches itself to you, and it allows you to roll 2d20s for attacks. You take the more advantageous roll because it's there. Like it can see 5 minutes or 5 seconds into the future or something like that. Is what the lore is behind the Tween.
Oh, so that's right. Yeah.
So you're able to. Because it's connected to you, so because of that, it's able to manipulate reality and allow you to be more successful. The thing, though, is it induces a disadvantage on everyone else, including your allies that are around you. So it's really great for you, and it just sucks for everyone else around you.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Malachi brings up a good point. My issue with advantage, disadvantage is that it's become overused. I think...
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that it's like it's not like you want to do like a +1 or +2 bonus, and they're like, just do advantage. It's like, no, but like advantage is more like, it's a much bigger bonus than like a +1 or a +2. It's like a +5 or something like that. You know, that's a big bonus to a roll, essentially what you're giving to someone. So I think advantage disadvantage is a unique mechanic, but it is sort of become like the design, like, I don't know what to do with this. Just give it advantage or disadvantage. So,
it's the lazy man's way out. Do you guys award like hero points or something like that in your games?
I'm supposed to, but I always forget.
I don't use anything like that. They get their gold, which is, you know, I do gold for XP in my games, and so they get their gold. That's their XP. Hopefully they level up and can grind to the next level. They're at the point now, you know, getting my buddy who's playing a fighter. He's got to get to level 5, and he's got to get to 16,000 XP. So he's trying to grind away at that. So, but no, I don't do hero points.
I mostly still want 5e because I haven't quite yet managed to convince the players to actually play the stuff that I wrote. So, but our first GM, he used something called brownie points, which is basically like, you know, that kind of stuff, and we kind of just like kept that. So I'm supposed to give that to people for like, oh yeah, you did like a really good role play here. Here's like 1 brownie point, but I always forget. So
yeah, we this has kind of been baked into my game since probably like 3rd edition, literally for over 23 years now. But it's kind of evolved too. But you know, now I'm just sort of, I have one player who loves like, you know, dealing out like things, and I do make them earn like the hero points. I don't just like give them. So every time they make a successful roll, you know, and I don't have to worry about this at all, you know, because I have, you know, Crazy Mouse is actually the one who does it. You know, he'll give him a little bingo chip, boom, flick it over to him. And if you get 5 of those, you end up getting essentially like a hero point. Basically, you can just turn it in for like a +2 on a roll. You know, maybe something like that. Nothing real earth-shattering. One thing I did borrow from DCC is I said, look, if you turn in 3 of these hero points, you can get an extra attack with a die 30. Because I just want to use that darn like die 30 in DCC. So I'm like, all right, I'll you know, if you've earned 3 of them, you know, you can anytime, you know, just turn it in and get 1 extra attack with the old D30. And if you roll a 30, it's 3 times the damage. Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
But keeps the guys interested. I mean, they feel like, all right, I also like too, because, and this is Crazy Mouse insisting, if you roll a 20 on your attribute check or whatever, it used to be skills, now it's just attributes. Boom, you get 2 of those bingo chips. If you roll a 1, you got to give 2 back. So
oh yeah, nice.
He's pretty brutal. He's like, nope, you come on, give them back.
That is cool. I like that. For me, because I'm running like a BX based game, I'm using weapon mastery from the Rule Cyclopedia, and I feel like that's given my players enough meat to like do cool stuff, because there's stuff, because in the Rule Cyclopedia, for instance, there's no like critical hits. So there's no like, when a 20 happens, it's not an auto hit, it's not double damage or anything like that. But some of the weapons in weapon mastery do like translate over to that idea of like dealing double damage or doing some kind of extra status effect. So I do use that. And my players seem to like that. And it gives another gold sink for them to do, because they're super rich, but then if they want to advance those skills, they got to go find a trainer, pay lots of gold. And it might not be successful in learning the skill. You got to do like a check to make sure you learn the next tier of that weapon. And if you fail, like, you lose half the gold that you spent on training. So to me, it makes for a good like little reason to spend gold. I'm always looking for reasons to make the players poor. So
yeah.
Do they have retainers and henchmen?
In my BX game, they have some NPC followers that are more like, they're at a point of like having they're like character classes and everything at this point. They have like a magic user and a cleric that are like their retainers pretty much. So they have to split XP and gold with those NPCs as well, if they want them to stick around. Otherwise, they'll peace out, because what's in it for them, right. You know.
Sure.
But in my AD&D game, they were trudging around through the dungeon with like a bunch. I think they had like 12 footmen altogether at one point. So they were leading an army. But you kind of need that in. We were playing AD&D 1E. You really kind of need that in AD&D to be survivable at all in the first level. And footmen and those kinds of henchmen are so cheap.
Right.
You're definitely incentivized to go into town and try and find those guys and hire them. So
Are they level 1 fighters? Or
yes, they are, which means they swung a sword. I loved your tweet. Like a level 1 cavalier has ridden a horse. That made me laugh.
Yeah. People seem to like that one. That's just one of my my occasional shit posts.
with your level 1 fighter debacle that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not huge. I would never stop them. Maybe they're just not henchmen kind of people. But the NPCs will hang around with them. But like long term, they never say like, hey, let's hire the closest was just literally like, hey, maybe we should just have like an NPC kind of off screen, just handling our horses and our bags and stuff. And I'm like, all right, yeah, that's cool. That's the kind of guy I can get behind. Not one that I have to remember is there. Like, oh shit, yeah, you guys have you got three henchmen with you. That's more stuff for me to remember.
my party that recently finished the campaign for, they had like a goblin following them around that they adopted called Snot. And he was basically like, the cook and like the, fixing their boots and stuff like that. So
yes, someone like that, you can actually kind of, as a DM, kind of sink your teeth into a little. You can kind of remember. Maybe you can even do some story related stuff. Maybe they get involved in something that was unexpected. But yeah, when it's just generic fighters, like you said, John, they may need them at certain levels, but after a while, I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff to keep track of. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just lazy at heart, I guess. I don't know.
it is a lot to keep track of in the AD&D game. Thankfully, they ran into some Gibberlings, and so the Gibberlings force a morale check at the start of every new round because AD&D want to use a side initiative, obviously. So at the start of every round, it's like, all right, we got to check initiative. And in my AD&D game, they have not treated their hirelings, their henchmen super well. They kind of use them in a meat shield sort of way. So I definitely put a penalty on those morale checks. So, they fought a group. They had there's 4 or 5 of them. I think there's 4 of them in the party. They had 12 henchmen altogether that was controlled by all 4 of them. They had them divided up between them based on their charisma scores. And by the end of they faced 10 Gibberlings. By the end of the battle, they killed all the Gibberlings. There was only 3 footmen left because all the others just ran away. So
we're done.
We're done. You're not paying us enough for this. The 1 gold a month and whatever you find in this dungeon is not worth dealing with these terrible naked monkey monsters that swing short swords around and don't speak English and speak in this weird gibberish. Like we want nothing to do with this. Peace out.
That sounds pretty racist. They really put that in the game? Who? Oh,
they did. Yeah, the Gibberlings. They're like these weird, little 3-toed creatures that swing little short swords around. They're pretty annoying. And again, they force morale checks. I think they're a 1-hit die creature, so they're not super deadly, but just their ability to quickly outnumber the players because of morale checks can become a problem, which almost did. But
what's your opinion of the Monster Manual 2 back from AD&D?
I've never actually looked at it. I've had multiple grognards say don't bother, so I've just sort of taken that advice and not bothered. So
it was the only reason I ask is it was one of the first actual advanced D&D books I ever got. I think I got the Player's Handbook, and then I think my friend Gavin already had the Monster Manual. I'm like, but he doesn't have the Monster Manual 2. So it's it is definitely hit and miss. It has, I think, the Modrons in it, which are a little goofy. Let's face it, but has some cool. It kind of finishes off like the princes and dukes, of hell and all that stuff. So there's some good stuff in there. But
so it basically goes into the multiverse, the planar stuff, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, there's stuff in there. Yeah, very much in the theme of the first, the first Monster Manual. They're definitely companion books, but I don't know. I have a fondness for that one.
GM Still Haven says it's all right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, it's pretty much. Yeah, it's just a a sympathetic vote for me. For it being good. Another time, another place.
For Rex still here, when I was getting into wanting to run AD&D, and I asked some people like, what should I get? Pretty much what they said was like, all you really need to play AD&D first edition is the 3 core rule books, so the DMG, the PHB, and the Monster Manual. And then they highly recommended the Fiend Folio, so I have the Fiend Folio as well. And so far they've been correct. Like I feel like I have everything I would ever need to run AD&D for the rest of my life with those 4 books. So,
let's put it this way: if you ever have a chance to get your hands on the Monster Manual 2 for like a reasonable price, I don't think there'd be anything wrong with getting it just from a completionist. There are some decent monsters in there too.
Sure, but I'll probably check it out at some point. I have the Wilderness Survival in PDF. I bought that a while ago, and it seems cool. But someone, I think Vince on the Gilded server was talking to me about it, and he was saying how that one is like really feels like 5e-ish as it adds all these skills. He's like, you could kind of see the proto. He's like, you could almost see the proto 5e-isms in that book. There's cool stuff in it, but it has that proto 5e skill check stuff. So I've only skimmed through it. It seems cool, but I probably won't use it.
It's one of those books. I don't know if I was aware of its existence. I don't know if I ever cracked it in my life.
Also, don't forget the Oxford Gygax to English dictionary. You'll need that one.
Yeah, it's called Osric.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Actually, you're not wrong there. That's funny. Yeah.
Gentle reader. I loved when Gary was around. In the early days of like the message boards of like Eric Noah and EN World. Yeah, he was Colonel Play-Doh. So it was just so fascinating to have this guy just literally do threads like, hey, I'm here. They weren't like called to ask me anything, but you knew if he was in a thread, he was there and responding.
Yeah.
I remember, I think I asked him a question about Conan, like what he thought of like the Conan movies or something, maybe. He gave his opinion on them and just all kinds of stuff. I remember him distinctly too. And I didn't think much at the time, but this is back then, and this is before it became fashionable to kind of say like, hey, what about Dave Arneson? Isn't he the real creator of D&D? And Gary, he'd always kind of chafe at that because it was brought up more than once, and he was kind of diplomatic and said, yeah, Dave did a lot, but he's like, you guys have to realize that it takes more than an idea to get a game into people's hands. It takes a lot of sweat and dedication, and it takes more than just, oh, I have this great idea. Kind of implying like, yeah, Dave did come up with the idea, but maybe he didn't know how to bring it home, whereas Gary did.
Hey, T-shirted.
Hey, T-shirted.
Hey, T-shirt. They will always use like out of context little snippets from those days to like trash him though. It's like, oh well, here on the forum in 1996 he said this, like, so obviously he's like a mega sexist, and we should completely change D&D because of that. Decolonize D&D.
Yeah, back then he'd have said like, well, I'm kind of a libertarian who probably maybe leans a little liberal. Yeah. Nowadays I think he'd be full over. I mean, just completely over on this side. He'd be on shows like this, and because there is no way he'd cotton to what's going on with 5e and all the sparkle trolls and all that stuff. No way, no how. Even Dave Arneson wouldn't.
No, I don't think any of. I was talking with Griff from Secrets of Blackmore.
Great documentary.
Yeah, I always recommend it for everyone. And Tonnesborg, if you, I don't think you're ever going to be able to get a really nice. The really nice offset print, but I think they're going to be having trade paperbacks of it. But
that's what I picked up. Yeah, it's good, fascinating.
It's really interesting to see how dungeons were ran and the DM advice in there and everything. It's really good. But I was talking to Griff, and he was saying like a lot of those guys in Arneson's group are conservative. They're just like conservative old dudes, and they're
Well, they came out of Napoleonic wargaming. I mean, that's
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's a pretty conservative crowd. They believe in history as as it
Yeah.
actually was, not how it can be rewritten. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yep.
So, I don't know. It's fascinating to think how the hobby has changed so much. But kind of to your point you had made earlier, I think the hobby has splintered to a point, and I'm critical of the new, for instance, VTT that they're making, but I also think that the VTT is a good thing because it will further separate the hobby between like people like us that want to play a little more analog, or we're going to play with a VTT, but we're going to still play it in a more analog fashion, as if we were at the table with friends. And then them over there doing their like weird video games with more steps, where you have to do the math and keep track of things yourself, but play a video game. And I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because it's a further divider where it's a more clear indication that these two groups aren't playing the same game. It has the same name on it, but it's a different game.
It is. It's almost like a split, between, like the Homo sapiens and the Neanderthals. It's like there's just two branches of like, oh, you play like that, and we'll both be looking at each other like that.
Yeah, which is fine. They can be over there.
Yeah,
they can be in their walled garden, doing microtransactions to get the next like little mini skin for their thing, or to get more dungeon tiles. And I'll be over here playing at my house with a dry erase board and dice. So
yeah, and I mean they're just kind of pushing it, like you said, into the microtransaction realm, but also very, very much in lockstep with like social media and stuff like that. Stuff that I just will probably be with us in some form or another, for a long time. But I really do see a pushback against this. When you start seeing the effect it has on kids. It's just, I don't know. It's at some point somebody's going to say they're going to throw their sandals into the machinery and say like, enough, you're not getting a phone until you're in high school anymore. Why do you have to do this online? Can you just get some friends around a table?
Yeah.
Like it used to be.
Yeah.
And I understand there's situations where you can't, do that. And I'm fine with that then, but if you can at all get a game in person, just at least try. And if they're lunatics, then at least you tried.
We got some super chats here. Everyone's super generous tonight. Thank you. We have Chaos Never Sleeps for 20. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
5e can get bent. Really dig this channel. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy I think I have over 200 videos now, going back a while now, so enjoy. Hope you find something you like in there.
Amen too.
And we got GM Stillhaven for $5. Speaking of Sparkle Trolls, what the fuck happened with Leyline Press? I've never seen a full speed train wreck in real time on social media like this. I mean,
they really stepped in it.
We can get into it a little bit. I mean, I made a video about it, GM Stillhaven. So if you go back, you can kind of see my video where I go through their Twitter thread. Essentially, if you want the Cliff Notes version, an editor on their mech game, Salvage Union, had done editing for Lamentations of the Flame Princess and a few other, quote, problematic games. And Leyline did not name this individual, but made a Twitter thread virtue signaling about parting ways with this individual and removing their name from the books. So it's been like a mess. It's been for me a frustrating thing because as a freelancer myself, and like, look, I've worked with lots of different companies. I've worked with Vic over here. I've worked with Pulp Hummock Press, Rob over at Pulp Hummock Press for his Gods of the Forbidden North. I've worked for Chaosium. I've worked for Mongoose Publishing. I've even worked for Green Ronin. So, which is incredibly woke. Does that mean that I agree with their politics? No, it just means that I like money. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
You probably don't even agree with my politics, so yeah.
But it shouldn't have to. I don't know. Yeah. It's like it's a business transaction. If I go to like Whole Foods and I buy my asparagus water there, and the purple dreaded girl rings me up, does that mean that she like endorses my politics? No, it just means I like my asparagus water and she likes her getting a paycheck or whatever. Like it's a purely business transaction, and the sooner everything's become so politicized, like we can't seem to differentiate that this is actually a good thing. Like if you're able to do business with people that you dislike, that means there's still enough peace going on that interaction, peaceful interaction is still possible. And these people seem to want to not have that, which is super weird because I'm not calling for that, so
Yeah. I don't know what their thinking was. Look, if I didn't know any better, do you guys remember the whole new Coke, thing? It was probably before your time.
Vaguely, I remember it. Yeah.
When Coca-Cola, they were actually kind of losing market share to Pepsi back in the mid 80s. And they finally said, you know what? We need to make Coke more like Pepsi. And it was a disaster, and it lasted like maybe 2 months. And before they said, no, we're going back to the old Coke. Well, lo and behold, guess what happened? It's like everybody started to drink Coke again. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this was like some sort of a deep cover operation from James Raggi, Lamentations of the Flame Princess, because it really blew up for Leyline, and everybody else is going like, you know what? I'm going to pick up Lamentations now. It's probably brought him more business than he's had, in any one week stretch in a long time, I bet.
Last I saw him, he was on Raven Wolfgar's stream, and that was like a day or two ago. He said he had like 16,000 sales, and that was like a couple days ago. So
he further updated on Twitter saying it was 18,000. So they had their PDS sale of $1.25 each. I can calculate that out. That's $22,500 of gross profits before DriveThruRPG would take their cut, which would be 35% of that for them, probably.
Not bad.
I think 30, because I think he said he wasn't.
Is he exclusive?
I think he said he was exclusive because like that 5% was just too much to lay. Okay. Leave around.
Well, I mean, 5% of $22,500 is a lot of money that I would keep too. So, we got a super chat from Crafty too. Thank you, Crafty Matt. I really appreciate it. Leyline Press issue is not over yet. While most people are dunking on Leyline Press, there's a group of people trying to find the editor that I know, because Crafty knows the editor, to ruin him. And this editor wants to remain anonymous. He wants nothing to do with it. He's apparently a very nice guy. He just is like, business is business. I'll work with anyone. And obviously the weirdos, the activist weirdos in the hobby want to probably dox him. So that's
insane. Utterly insane.
Yeah. Any of Garabay's videos give you brain damage.
I made the mistake of commenting on his video of the Leyline Press thing because he went in so many different directions on that video. Like, the OSR is full of racists and I have the receipts. And I'm like, what are the receipts, Scott? And he's like, I don't. Venger's a racist and Grim Jim is a racist. And I'm like, it's so funny you name Venger and Grim Jim because Venger is he's like a center right guy and Grim is like left, like
Yeah.
They're OSR though, and to him OSR is evil. But yeah,
well, then he said something about them using like a word, but I never saw him actually say what that word was. But apparently, like you as like a person of color should be offended. So
I know he had a problem with Grim using the R asterisk TARD.
Oh,
yeah, that was his. He made a video on him.
What's that have to do with being Mexican though?
Wow. Maybe he thinks all Mexicans are retards. I don't know.
I mean,
I was gonna say it, but I'm in somebody else's house.
No, I'm letting the Mexicans say it. I'm just putting the fault in his head.
Mexican and retard. Yeah, you can say me. Yeah. But no, Garabay is fodder for our Wednesday live streams in the lair. I'll give you the one and only plug. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We do our thing, and the last several, I'm like, all right, you want to do another Garabay video, and people love it. And the figuring out what this guy is and what he does is just crazy. Crazy Mouse thinks that he's a DoorDasher. He's like a gig app guy. because that's what Crazy Mouse does. And he's like, yeah, he has all the hallmarks of a guy doing a delivery and making videos while doing so.
Yeah.
T-shirted asks me, at the Basic Expert, are they going to cancel you when WotC releases their South American world because you're not brown enough? When I release, well, is WotC releasing some kind of South American world? Because I'm working on Obsidian and Blood, which is like white box in the engine, but you'll play as like an Aztec warrior gathering victims for sacrifice and stuff. Actually, that's how you get that's how you get the XP in the game. There's no treasure. It's like, can I capture people for sacrifice? So I don't know. I'll probably get canceled for it, but I'm sure it'll make people mad. They'll say cultural appropriation, and I'll say like, well, it's half of my heritage, and they'll be like, but still.
Yep.
Just call it hearts for XP instead of gold for XP.
Hearts for XP.
If you want to see where that gets you, John, then yeah, just look at any African American who supported Trump and see if that matters to these folks. Yeah. It does not. Yeah, they will come at you if you're on the wrong side of things.
Well, I'm not having any disclaimers in it. Like, there's not going to be any disclaimers like you have to be of Mesoamerican Nahuatl descent in order to play this game. Like, nah, you can be Pasty Vic over here and play as like a Jaguar warrior. I don't care. I think it's great.
Isn't it just insane though that like even talking about a disclaimer like that is in the realm of possibility for some people?
Yeah.
It just blows my mind, man.
It's not even just in the realm of possibility, it's a requirement for some people.
Yeah.
So
yeah, is Wizards of the Coast doing their own thing? I mean, I can only imagine what a train wreck it would be. It'd be, oh man.
I vaguely remember hearing something about it, but
a T-shirt. Are they doing something? Someone tagged me in something with I don't know if it was Wizards, but it was someone's like 5th edition thing. I think it was on Kickstarter, and it had all of those woke warnings of like, cultural sensitivity and all that kind of stuff. And like for me, I've done like this game Obsidian Blood has been like 2 years of research that I've put into it. Like I've done the legwork on trying to make sure that it's like accurate, that it's as close to like how the Aztec people lived as I could be, with that mythical layer over the top where that's like kind of dialed to 11 a little bit. But otherwise, like culturally, I feel like it's respectful to not, for me, to not put even things that I don't like about their culture, such as like sacrifice and stuff like that, to not sort of gloss over that, but just present it as, this is a setting, this is how they were, and if you want to adventure in this world, these are the rules, and this is how it was. And no, I don't know.
I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to do really well. You stick to your guns on that. I'm in already, and I'm honestly, I mean, I saw Apocalypto and I thought it was awesome, but I haven't thought much about it. But just hearing you talk about it and seeing some of your drawings in that, it looks like it's going to be kick ass.
Yeah,
thank you. I hope so. So I don't know. I'm sure people will come after me, but I'll just, you got to monetize the haters, so I'll just make sure I do that. So
just never apologize. You'll be good. Yeah, that's, people don't realize, like, these people don't have, generally speaking, a great attention span. So you can just kind of do like what Troll Lord did, when they made their statement about being no politics, and the crazies were after him for about 2 or 3 days. They just said not one word, and lo and behold, do you hear any of those folks talking about Troll Lord anymore? No. So just
no.
Go dark for a week, and they will forget about you.
I kind of have a hard time going dark. I'd probably make things worse, but
yeah, it's attempt. Yeah, it would be hard to do, but
just retweet every angry tweet at me, but like with a link to, because I plan on kickstarting it, so like with a link to the Kickstarter. It's like, here.
You guys want to see what angry like comments are? Go look at my Will Wheaton video. You haven't seen unhinged lunatics like Will Wheaton simps. Ooh, my Lord.
Didn't know such things existed.
These people are crazy.
He still has simps? God.
Yeah, men and women too. And it's like, man, you're going to the mat for Will Wheaton, you know. And I just did a video, just kind of, and you know, look, in the video itself, if you watch it, I kind of hold back, and I didn't want to say what I, you know, truly think of him, just because I was like, all right, well, this needs to be appealing to, you know, just the average viewer, you know. But holy shit, even what I said, you know, was too much for these people. Crazy.
All right. I'll answer this question. K9999 asks, what sort of monsters exist in your Aztec game? I've kind of looked at different monsters that existed. There's actually not that many. Most of them are like the gods themselves, which I don't want the players fighting. I kind of want the gods to be like distant. They're watching from one of the 13 heavens and, you know, doing their thing. But there's different monsters. Some of them I've made up, some of them that are on theme, but some of them are not. Like I have like the Sepactli, which is like or Kipactli, which is like a giant crocodile monster. I have there's this weird creature that it was essentially translated as like night axe, and it would like be in the woods, and you would hear like what would sound like an axe hitting a tree, hence the name, and it would rip its chest open, and if you could find it and like grab its heart, it would give you a wish. And but you had to it would try and make a deal with you, and you had to reject the first 3 deals, I think. And if you could do that, then and beat the monster and get the heart, your wish would be granted. Or you could just steal the heart, and if you receive the heart, it would turn to ash, or you'd wrap it in a cloth. And if it turned into one thing in the morning, it meant you got your wish or were blessed. If it turned into something else, it means you're cursed. So I have monsters like weird monsters like that. I have like some monkey people, because one of the sons in Aztec mythology, the people of that world were turned to monkeys. And so I sort of did my own little thing on that, where they're kind of the goblins of the setting, where they're sort of these mutated monkey people that kind of like didn't mutate all the way. So just stuff like that.
Are you going to amp up like just the natural animals too, like the, you know, like jaguars or, you know, something like that?
There will be jaguars. There will be jaguar men. Like there's jaguar warriors, which are like, you know, the guys, they have like jaguar suit on. But in the first world, if it turns into Will Wheaton, the gods are mad. I lost my train of thought now. In the first son, Tezcatlipoca was the god. He's like the god of sorcery in Aztec mythology. He was the son, and Quetzalcoatl was the one who knocked him out of the sky. And he was really pissed, so he came out of the ocean and had formed like a bunch of jaguars that just devoured all the people of that first world, who were giants that I think ate acorns or something weird like that. And so he sent them forward to eat everyone. And so I kind of made it to where like they're just like these cannibalistic jaguar people. So
nice.
You'll have encounters with things like that as well. Undead Toltec warriors, because I think any D&D game needs undead of some kind.
Yeah,
so.
Agreed.
For sure. What is like? Where do you find the time to write? I know you have a young child. Do you just block off a time and just say, "Hey, I'm going to write," and that's just the way it's going to be, or do you just try to find time whenever you can?
I just try and find time whenever I can.
Yeah.
So, you know, like people think I work really fast, but like I have a lot of different projects going on at the same time. I guess that'd be my tip for people. If you want to get into this kind of stuff, is have lots of ideas, especially if you kind of like addled ADHD brain like me. So I can kind of switch between projects that I'm working on. And I have all my commissions that I'm doing too. But mostly my daughter just plays here in the office behind me as I'm working. And she'll be watching her TV shows sometimes, or just playing with her dolls and stuff. And she's usually well behaved. So she leaves me alone enough and hangs out with me in here, and I can get some writing done.
Shane asks when we get to see my Doggerland book. I have no clue. That's probably going to be a huge project. I would want to do the proper research. I want to practice setting writing a bit more, because that's not something that I'm quite versed in yet, in my opinion. That might be just the imposter syndrome talking, but I don't know. But no. I want, if I do that, I want it to be good. I want to have a big enough bank account to get amazing art for it. Also, so I don't know. That might be a couple years away still.
What is Doggerland?
Doggerland is it's basically like the real Doggerland is a part of the North Sea that used to be land, and it was like very prehistoric, like with mammoths and stuff like that. It was like a chunk between the Netherlands and Britain, and it got flooded like I don't know, like 10,000-15,000 years ago. And but I want to take that and basically turn it into like a mythical, like sword and sorcery, like prehistoric game.
Gotcha.
And like, throwing like Atlantis and just weird shit for like no reason.
It's like a Southern Thule then, sort of.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I like it.
Well, for you, you were saying, so you got your start in AD. I wanted a little bit about your gaming history, I guess. You got started in AD&D 1E, sounds like.
Well, I got started a lot, even before that in just gaming. Now, if it's D&D gaming, I actually did get started in the original red and blue box sets. I did not play a lot in those, just a little bit, kind of with family and maybe a couple of friends. And then I met a bunch of new friends, which included Gavin Morgan, and he's like, hey, there's this AD&D game. You can't use that red box shit. I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, all right, so off to buy the player's handbook then. The red box just kind of sat, in the closet then. So yeah, we did some 1E gaming, back in the day. I remember running and playing in the original Ravenloft. I definitely remember running the first couple Dragonlance modules, and of course, like some of the classic modules too.
What did you think of those?
The Dragonlance?
Yeah.
I never read the books. And I know what people say about this, like, oh, it's kind of railroady. But they reprinted those in second edition, and I ended up running the first 4 modules in second edition. And I kind of liked it for just kind of a short-term thing. It was just, I guess, kind of epic enough to, look, I was a younger man back then. Times change. Maybe I wouldn't feel the same way, but yeah, I kind of dug them.
Cool.
I did most of my gaming though in second edition, and I kind of set aside D&D in after the mid '80s, like kind of getting into high school. It wasn't like it is today, boys. You didn't wear your nerd cred on your sleeve. If you wanted to get laid, you did not. You hope that stuff would never come out about you. So
yeah,
just kind of put it off to the side. So there was probably a good 5-year stretch where I did no gaming. And that was probably from the time I was, 16 to 21, 22. And then I met my wife, and she worked at this restaurant, and they're like, hey, do you ever play D&D? I'm like, well, yeah, I did play back in the day. They're like, well, we're just begging for like a DM. It's like, would you do that? And I'm like, okay. I kind of started it. That was in the like 1991. Oh boy.
Is that the same game that you said how long is your current game? You said your campaign been going?
Well, it's been going since '95, and it just takes place in the Birthright setting. It started with those same people. It kind of started out. Gavin Morgan has always been with me. He's even back in the early '80s. When we didn't have like a group, we would just play like one-on-one games, like James Bond, Star Trek, the FASA Star Trek game. So I actually played more of those kind of games than I did D&D in the early '80s. But he joined in the D&D game in the early 90s, and we kind of did things like that Dragonlance thing. I got Planescape, so did a little mini run of that. Then they said, oh yeah, look at this Birthright's coming out, and I'm like, man, what a cool setting. I thought it's just kind of fantasy enough, just kind of European enough to scratch our itch. And ever since then, yeah, it's been going strong. My wife joined, and at about 2000, when third edition came along, we rebooted that is, I guess, the one thing about me. For as much as I appreciate OSR, yeah, Fastest Star Trek is really good, simple and good. You know, up until recently, we've always tried to stay at the cutting edge. You know, we've always been like, oh, a new edition of D&D's coming out. Well, let's just port over. And we've never made a huge deal of porting over characters and that, like 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition. We're like, hey, let's, you know, we generally know what this character can do, you know, and my players are really good about it. So we have just all this kind of lore built up, you know, all these characters. I'm in like the 3rd generation of characters now. So it's
awesome.
it's kind of gotten beyond me a little. I have to rely, you know, as I get older, I'm sort of relying now kind of on Rogan and Crazy Mouse and my wife to kind of remember some things that I have just completely forgotten. I mean, you're talking weekly games over the last 23 years.
That's amazing, though. I hope to have games like that, you know, in
thank you
in my future, you know.
We're
And my
blessed.
daughter too. You know, you said you're playing with your kid. Like, I want to play with my kid someday. So.
Yeah, I have a son and a daughter, and they both have played with us. My son's a little older, you know, so he played for a while. You know, he'd pop in. I'd be like, "Hey, buddy, you know, I got a spot for you at the table," and that's like, "Oh my God, the big, you know, I'm playing with the guys," you know. So that was, but you know, he's out of the house now. He's doing his own thing. But you know, he plays. You know, he runs things on his own. Yeah, but my daughter's in college. And she's such a sweetheart. In fact, I'll be releasing a live play tomorrow. You know, you'll see her and you know, her girlfriend who was just coming over to watch. And I'm just like, "Do you want to play?" And she's like, "Absolutely." So now they're both playing. So now I got a table full of 8 people, and I'm like, "Oh boy, this is crazy, but fun. Good crazy." You know,
how has Castles and Crusades handled that many people at the table?
So far, so good. In the session we just had last Friday, you know, the one it's going to be coming out tomorrow. You know, we had a situation where I had to introduce my daughter's character, and then I just, you know, her girlfriend, I just said, "Hey, why don't you just be her retainer and make it easy?" And she's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So it was good. You know, they're going to rescue somebody. It ended up being my daughter's character's brother. So I'm like, well, she's a princess. She probably shouldn't be going. So I'm just going to have 5 castle guards come out and just basically say like, "Hey, princess, you can't go. You know you're a princess. Come on back." And my intention was, well, look, any charisma roll or something like that is gonna work, you know, just because, you know, I want to get the thing going. These guys couldn't hit a charisma roll to save their life. And it's like one of those like a Simple Plan or something like that. One of those Coen brother movies. Things just got out of control and like things started happening. And I'm like, oh my God, I never thought they'd do this, but it's kind of cool too, you know, to kind of know that like the dice still do decide certain things. They realized it and I did too. Like, a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened if you guys had just made a fucking charisma roll, one of you, and they couldn't. I mean, table full of, you know, like 8 people, and nobody could hit anything. So yeah, but it's the system itself is good. It's simple enough to implement, and easy enough, you know, for me to just kind of ad hoc certain things. One thing we're doing now is initiative every round, which I kind of like.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely old school. Like if you're playing BX or AD&D, like you're doing side initiative, new side initiative every round. And I do like how like Basic Fantasy does it, where they have individual initiative, but they still do it on a D6 every round, which is nice because the dwarf character, he always has terrible. In my game, he always has terrible initiative, but he gets a new one every round, and so he has a chance of not sucking in the next round.
I do every round because I always view initiative as like reflexes and reaction time, and that stuff isn't static. Like, you know, like you might react to a sword swing one way, you know, that you're not going to do the next time. So
you can always get that crucial, you know, back to back. You know, I went last, and now I'm going to go first. So you know, two in a row. That if it happens at the right time, could be the difference.
it also alleviates that boredom of it's like, well, I just missed my 2 attacks. See you guys in 40 minutes. You know, when it's my turn again. It's like, no, you might go first on the next initiative roll. So
yeah, I'm glad we because at first we were like, oh, we don't have to do that. We can just stick with the 5e and just go, static, or just roll once and that's it. And then just a couple weeks ago, I'm like, why don't we give this a try, see how this goes? And they loved it because they did get a couple of those back-to-backs and it made a difference. So they're like, this is good. I warned them though. I said, this is going to work against you at some point, right? They're like, yeah, we know. Okay, good.
We got another super chat. RPG music. When do you know you're good enough to turn your campaign setting into a product, and how did you get your first release off the ground? I think like as soon as you have a decent sized adventure area, you feel like you got enough to run like maybe a few months of sessions, and you feel confident that you have like some locations and points of interest fleshed out. Maybe you have some factions, you have some backstory. Like that, for me, that's really all you need to make like a good, decent setting for maybe other people to check out. I should leave your comment up while we talk about it. But yeah, I don't know. The way I got mine off, I'm blessed in that like I also do art, so I can do the layout, the art, I do the writing, I do everything myself. Whereas someone like Vic, unfortunately, doesn't have the artistic skills, but he has all the other skills. So he has to pay for art. So that is definitely like a barrier to entry for a lot of people. I truly feel blessed that I have always loved doing art since I was a kid, and I'm decent at it, so that I can do everything myself. Can kind of be the one man show, but there's a lot of options out there for you as well, as far as like public domain, AI art, if you're not afraid of the mob's pitchforks.
What's your views on that, John? How do you feel about the AI art thing?
I'm not too concerned about it. I think it's fine. I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to a friend about it, and I think the motives for the people that are really into AI art are different from the motives from like someone like myself. Like even if AI art was to replace me, I wouldn't stop doing art. Like I still enjoy just doing it. I like getting my sketchbook out and doing sketches. It's something I enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. Whereas like AI people, the AI art people, they don't. I don't feel like you get the same feelings just doing prompts into a text box and hitting generate. Yeah. So I don't think that same longevity, the same reason for doing so is there. And AI art can be a very powerful thing. I think like as an artist, I could see using it for like thumbnailing. I hate doing thumbnails. So
that's what I'm using it for. Yeah. For my live plays. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Well, thumbnails for videos, but just from like an artist perspective, a thumbnail is like a little, like I might do like a little image like that big in my sketchbook.
Gotcha.
Here's just like a quick little sketch of what is going to go on in the scene.
Almost like a storyboard almost.
Yeah, I hate doing those. And so like if you could tell AI like I want to have a knight fighting an orc, and it can generate like a bunch of wonky crap that's probably unusable as it is because it can't draw hands, and it gives like the knight like 3 legs and stuff like that. And, all that kind of weird stuff. But you can kind of get an idea. They're like, oh, okay, that there's a seed of a good idea there, and I can use that. So, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not even concerned. I'm not even concerned with AI drawing hands. Just get better. Regular artists like myself should just get better at drawing hands. They're hard, but we can do it. I believe in us.
Yeah.
Well, I think there'll be a premium in the future, with people saying like, hey, the art in this book was drawn by humans. I think people are kind of sympathetic, and they'll be like, I'm going to gravitate maybe a little towards this. You might have to do a little selling,
Yeah.
And maybe some people feel like, well, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, the reality changes a little bit. So don't be afraid to say like, hey, I worked on this, with some sweat equity.
Vic, what's for this super chat? You have a slightly different experience than me. I think you might be able to be closer to there. Maybe I feel like I'm a unique case. So like I
Well, I don't really do campaign settings right now, so I can't really say much on that. But how do you get your first release off the ground? Well, as lame as it sounds, you just do it. Like I just come up with an idea. I start writing, like, you know, I autistically work on it for a while. I make sure it doesn't have too many typos. I get art for it. Either I pay somebody, or depending if it's like a small like thing that I'm doing, I usually just get like commercial free art. I make the PDF and I put it on Drive to RPG and, like, you know, itch and stuff, and people can buy it. That's literally it. Like, there's no special process. Like, and I'm not just sitting here, like, you know, figuring out, like, you know, exactly how to release this thing. I just do it. So,
in some respects, it is a little easier in that regard. You know,
Yeah.
I only have, you know, a couple of writing credits. I do have one adventure published in Dungeon many moons ago, but
That's cool.
it was a cool process. And, you know, you did have to, you know, we're talking early 2000. It's like you have to get over that kind of hurdle. Am I good enough to do this? You know, like,
Yeah.
I have a decent idea, and I know it's as good as some of the stuff I've been seeing, but, you know, will they see it that way? And at some point you just have to say, F it. I'm going to give it a shot, and just,
Yeah.
you know, here we go. And, you know, lo and behold, it, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I have like severe imposter syndrome, so like that initial hurdle to get like to even like have the confidence to release stuff, like that was tough. But at the same time, I was seeing shit that it was like this is like made by like a professional publisher. I can do this better.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of what I did. And my first book, which is almost done finally, which is basically 5e modern, so it's like, you know, D20 modern for 5e kind of. That started as just because I wanted like better gun rules. I was like looking at the DM's guide for 5e, and there's like some very basic like modern firearms rules in there, and I was like, these are kind of shit. I can do that better. So I just started taking down some notes, and it just spiraled from there until I had like a 200-page book. And then I was like, yeah, we're gonna Kickstarter it, and it did well, and yeah.
You know, with the success of like John Wick, it's surprising there's not more, you know, kind of games along those lines that kind of simulate that kind of action. You know, I know some can, but I'm just surprised none haven't kind of tried to come out and piggyback on that. You know,
I was talking about that on my own stream kind of like yesterday, because I'm always surprised by that too, because I remember on Twitter I did like this poll, like, hey guys from my generation, like, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, when you first started like playing tabletop games, like what were the games that you liked? And like the overwhelming like number one was like D20 modern. But then like at the same time, like and people like were telling me like, oh, I missed that game, like I was playing that constantly. But at the same time, there's not really any games like that like out there in the mainstream. You've got Everyday Heroes, which is like another like 5e modern game, and it did really well on Kickstarter, but I never hear anyone talk about it. So I don't know, it's kind of like a forgotten niche almost. So but whatever, it works out for me because I managed to claim it now. So
there's like some boutique games I think that might simulate it. You know, I just kind of wanted to do like almost like an 80s action adventure game, you know, kind of like a Big Trouble Little China meets Commando, something like that. And I just used Feng Shui, which, you know, did the job. You know, I think those guys like it, but I'm just saying there's got to be you know, out there some kind of a system that somebody's thinking about that, you know, might be a little you know, I don't know, unique, a little new, bring something new, because I don't think Die 20 does that particularly well. It probably can, but you're kind of stuck in the whole D&D mentality when you play Die 20. You know, you're thinking D&D the whole time.
Savage Worlds does it exceptionally well. I'm currently in a campaign that's like 1990s, like John Woo, like Hong Kong, like action, and it works great for that. Like I'm having a blast. But at its core, Savage Worlds, like it's the way it advertises itself. It's very like 1920s, like pulp and stuff like that. So it doesn't like lead into that modern stuff, even though it's like perfect for it.
Yeah,
well, and Max here, Mr. Max, kind of agrees with you, Vic. He said, "Are guns more lethal than an axe?" You always give the axe example. I feel like, where you're like, if I shoot you in the chest with a 9mm, or I drive an axe into your chest, like you're probably still dead.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because I hate that argument that people give me that's like, well, guns in D&D should be like 6d20 And it's like, well, a battle axe is like 1d8 or like 1d12 or whatever, or 2d6. Like, why should a gun then be like, massively more powerful? People kind of have like this weird idea of like, a battle axe to the head is fine, but like a 9mm to the chest is like instantly lethal.
Let me see here.
Did you ever play Spycraft at all?
I had the PDFs, but I never played it.
It's an interesting game. We played it for a cup of coffee, I think, for just a little bit, and it was kind of interesting. Again, die 20, so you're kind of constrained by that a little bit, but it did the best it could.
I think the 80s and 90s and like early 2000s were great for that genre, because you had like a ton of games like that. You had Tristat, you had like D20 Modern, you had like all sorts of games, Feng Shui, and like they were like very modern themed. And then they just kind of died out, and it became like it went back to fantasy. And now cyberpunk is like very popular and like sci-fi, but that kind of like middle ground is just, I don't know. But that's the niche that I claimed, and people seem to enjoy it, and I'm having a moderate success with it. So I don't know.
Good.
Patty says, I don't know. My president told me 9mm would explode a lung right out of my body.
Yeah.
And he never lies. So
of course.
9mm is like notoriously, like, I know everyone carries it, but like it is not, it stops people, but it doesn't kill people. So
yeah. That's why I got a 44 Magnum.
There you go.
got a slight inferiority complex. No lie, but this is going to be pretty morbid. Are you guys in the mood for a morbid story?
Sure. Why not?
It's not graphic. It's just morbid. So we play on Friday nights, and we're done. We start at like 9. We go till 12:30. If it's a good night, sometimes 1. We're all getting older. So I think this night, it was like 12:30 or something. So we go upstairs, me and the boys, and my daughter, I don't think was here or anything. It was just me and the guys, and of course my wife. And my wife is, she'll hang around a little bit, and she's like, I'm going upstairs to take a bath. And this is in the summertime, so windows are open, and she's up there taking her bath, and we're just talking. And then I hear her say like, oh my God, Scott. And I hear her get up out of the tub, and I'm like, what the hell? So I run up. She's like, I just heard a lady scream like up the street 3 times. Then I heard a gunshot.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I'm like, okay, so we go outside. We're creeping around, and then all of a sudden, we hear another gunshot. I'm like, oh my Lord, So I go back in. I got my 44 Magnum. I don't know what's going on. These are literally like 4 houses away. And you might think I live in a ghetto. I live in one of the nicer areas of my city. But if I told you some of the stuff that's happened here, you wouldn't believe it. Let's just say, all right, well, finishing the story, the police are called, and I they're investigating. My wife was very good, even from her bath. She's like, it was on that side of the street, about 4 houses up. She was telling him, she was right on. And when we went outside and I heard that last gunshot, we went in, after the police were there, and I said, you know what, guys? I said, I hate to be morbid, but I said, I think this is a murder-suicide. I said, I think my wife heard the murder, and when we went outside, we heard that last gunshot, and I think there was a suicide. And that is 100% what happened.
Oh, yeah, that's
brutal. So but the police came, and I forgot I grabbed my 44 Magnum, and I invited the police to come in, because they wanted to talk to my wife, real quick and figure out what's going on. So it was like right on the TV stand right behind me. So I wonder what he thought of that big, dirty, hairy weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is not the first murder that happened within a stone's throw of my house. There was a home invasion murder too.
Oh my God!
It is like you'd think I live in like the worst part of South Central. If I showed you a picture of my house, you'd be like, oh man, what a beautiful area. It's like you guys, it probably couldn't happen again. So I think we're free and clear. So.
I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate of carrying. I carry when I go out and everything. I'm in Idaho, so we have constitutional carry, so
nice.
You can carry You
I
can
have
carry
one,
without a permit.
That's cool. I get the permit here. I don't carry a lot. There's sometimes I might I might feel like I should, but yeah. And
I
what do
own
you
guns, but
carry?
I can't carry them.
What's that, Victor?
But I own guns, but I can't carry them legally. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you carry, John? Do you have a particular?
I just carry a Glock 19.
That's my brother. That's one of my brother's favorite. Yeah.
It's a Glock 19 that I built. It's from an 80% lower polymer lower that I milled out myself and built and everything. And
oh wow!
So
you're
I'm into that.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm into that kind of stuff. I have a desktop CNC machine. I do 80% lowers on ARs and stuff like that. It's all. I mean, over here in Idaho, it's all good. You can do that. So I built all my rifles. So I'm into that kind of stuff.
Nice.
That's my other hobby.
I have an SR-42, which I really like. I like Ruger. Even my 44 is a Ruger Red Hawk, which is a nice gun. And I really do like the SR-40. That is a dependable weapon. It should stop someone too. I don't know.
Yeah, I have the actual defense distributed desktop CNC machine, the Ghost Gunner. So
I just have a regular old Bushmaster. So
yeah, but you have a sweet AK. You even got the Dong.
Yeah,
so.
that is true.
You have an AK. Nice.
Yeah. I have a bunch of stuff. I have a very rare 308 sniper rifle that they probably made less than 500 of. Like stuff like that.
Is it hard to get that over there? Do you need like a shitload of permits and stuff like that?
It's not so much hard. Like it just takes a lot of time. It basically takes like 2 years to even get like your license, because you have to spend like a year just like being a member of the gun club before you even like get your license and stuff like that. But otherwise, we actually have like a pretty decent choice of like weapons that you're allowed to own. We probably like I can own like just like a regular old AR-15 that you couldn't own in California. So so yeah. I just can't carry it. I mean, there's rules for like taking it to the gun club. I have to like store it in the safe, stuff like that. So,
what are the home defense laws like over there? Like, could you use it without question against like a home invasion, or would you have to justify something?
I think if I can prove that I was like under like lethal threat, I would probably be okay, because they eased up on that like in the last few years. I do remember when basically if you got like if you beat up a burglar or something, you would be in trouble. But I think they eased up on that in the last few years, because there was a incident like I don't know, this is like already a decade ago, where these two guys, they robbed a jeweler and they were like abusing the owner, and his wife was like in the back room, and she grabbed a pistol that she didn't have a permit for or anything, was technically illegal, and she shot both of them and she got off with it. So even though her gun was illegal, like even though she she shot these dudes, she got away with it. So yeah, I think I would be okay.
Well, as we say over here, better to be judged by 12 than buried by 6.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we don't even have Jewies over here, so.
Yeah, but I'm a big fan of guns. Like I'm here in the Treasure Valley in Idaho. There's George Norris Public Range that's not too far from here, just like a nice outdoor public range. Try and go there as often as I can. So I'm always annoyed when Vic kind of pinned the market on the gun stuff, because I like guns, but Vic is the RPG gun guy. That's just cool.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Well, technically, you did it first with your. Well, not first. You did it first for the OSR with your the thing you wrote
but
for.
It hasn't,
yeah,
for Invisible College, which hasn't released
yeah,
yet.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's coming out. People keep asking me, I'm like, I don't know. The publisher, it's in the publisher's hands. I don't know.
Yeah.
So sorry. Yeah, here we go. Victor, Mr. Guns and RPGs.
Yeah, maybe that should be my my YouTube channel name.
There's worse things to be called, right?
Yeah, true.
But, Yeah, I'm jealous of Vic cornering that market, but it's all good.
Yeah, but you cornered the Aztec OSR market, so you know
Oh,
it's good. It's all
that's
good.
true. I did let my gun autism go full speed in Cowpunchers, where like
Yeah,
I people are like, you should just give generic stats for like revolver, lever action rifle, and I'm like, I can't. My gun autism cannot allow that, so I'm gonna stat as many guns as I can from 1840 to 1899. That's what I'm gonna do.
yeah.
So that's what I did. The center part of the book, like I think most pages are devoted to just like all the guns from pistols, shotguns, and rifles from 1840 to 1899, because I just couldn't help myself. Which some people told me they appreciated. They're like, "Oh, I appreciated that. Like you took the time to
Yeah.
differentiate between different eras and different guns and stuff like that." So
I generally do generic models, so I don't do like, oh, this is a Glock and this is a 1911, this is a Beretta 92, whatever. I just do like semi-auto pistol and then like Magnum pistol and stuff like that, because there's only so many times you can be like, well, this does 1d6 and it has like a range of 50 yards. Like, it's like, what's the difference between a Glock and a Beretta ultimately when you have to like, do stats for it. So
I'm glad you said that, because that's something I've always noted about modern games. It's like, oh, it's a cool gun. It's like it has the exact same stat of
so
10 other guns right above it and below
it. I just boil it down to its essence, and it's up to you to
Yeah.
skin it how you want. If your character is carrying a Glock, okay, and the other character might be carrying a Beretta, but ultimately it's just a semi-auto pistol, and they both do 1d6 or 1d8 or whatever. So
back in the day, like I might have mentioned, me and Gavin Morgan, we played a lot of James Bond, and they had something called the Q manual, and man, that was just so cool.
Yeah.
It's like all the gadgets, but they also had those gun stats, before there were too many games with them. God,
Yeah.
what a cool game that was.
maybe Phoenix
best one-on-one game. Yeah.
Maybe Phoenix Command had that. Like I don't know. That's a pretty crunchy. Is that I think that's the game where like you calculate it all out, and then when your character finally figure out when you got shot, it's almost just like this autopsy report.
Yeah.
Of like how it all happened.
Yeah, games back then were, even James Bond, as much as we loved it, if you looked at it now, it's, you're to do any like shoot or do something like that, you're rolling on two charts. There's two charts you have to consult.
Yeah.
And it's like that was what you did back then. We're talking 1982, 83 maybe. And it's just game design has come a long way, but at the time it was a hell of a lot of fun.
I have no problem with that. Like I love Classic Traveler, where you have to reference 3 tables. You have to reference your attribute skill, your range, and weapon versus armor, and you're like calculating all these modifiers to shoot the gun. Like I'm okay with that, because I love that kind of stuff. And I emulated that.
It's a hard sell.
I emulated that though, and I do the exact same thing in Atomic Punk in the 2D10 version, where I'm like, yeah, you're gonna reference 3 tables. I'm sorry, that's what I like. That's the kind of game I want, so that's what it's gonna be.
Well, stuff like that Q manual you mentioned, I always love stuff like that. That's kind of what was like my big inspiration to even do this. Like I always love like those guns and equipment like supplements of like various games. Like you had them for D21, you had them for Shadowrun, you had them for GURPS, like all sorts of stuff. You used to have like these like weird like GeoCities sites where it was just like people would just make their own Shadowrun guns and just have like all these like weird crappy like low res pictures of them, but with all the stats laid out and like cool descriptions and stuff. It's like, oh, this is like the AK 600, made in Russia, like in the new Russian the new Russian block or whatever. And I always love stuff like that, so that's always been a big inspiration for what I'm doing now.
I did too. Yeah. Those were always must-have books. Back in the day. Yeah, the old equipment guide.
Yeah.
Okay. I was right. Phoenix Command. Did the bullet hit a bone? Where did the bullet deflect? Did it exit? Did it hit a comrade? Did it hit the comrade in the bone? Where did the bullet deflect?
Yeah.
It's like the Warren Commission.
Yeah, I was about to say it's like JFK, the magic bullet.
I kind of want to get Phoenix Command just to peruse it, because it just seems like an absurdly crunchy game. So,
have you guys ever delved into the madness of Fatal? Did you ever?
I've only heard story.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard of the crazy tables in that book though.
yeah.
I need to do a Victor makes a character for it.
Yeah, it was around, and I think we used to go to Gen Con a lot. And on the way home from Gen Con one year, Rogan had it like on his phone, and he was reading off all the stuff in the book. It was a fun way to pass several hours on the road, just listening to all these weird tables, and it's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a sick curiosity, I guess. I just want to see what it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had some pretty, I don't know, it was like a combination of being very juvenile but very particular too. I mean, they weren't just doing it. You could tell they weren't doing it because they thought it was funny. They were doing it because they thought they were, they were onto something. like vaginal circumference was going to be the new hula hoop or something.
Yeah, or anal circumference.
Yeah,
because you need to know that for your character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They thought you did. That's crazy. Yeah, I don't even know who did it. I wish they'd come forward and own it at this point.
Was it released anonymously?
If it was, maybe it wasn't, or maybe it was under a pseudonym, maybe. Because I don't ever remember. Because like the classic, like bad game, that people say is like World of Cinnabar. Because it was because of a review that RPGNet did, and that's Raven McCracken, who actually seems like a really cool dude.
Yeah, I've met him on stream. He's really nice.
Yeah, he seems like a real cool dude, which makes me like want to be like, all right, I want to look at like Cinnabar and actually see, it's probably better than people thought. But like no name ever came out, with in conjunction with Fatal, or maybe I'm just misremembering, but I don't remember anyone being attached to it.
It says Byron Hall here. Some guy named Byron Hall, but
okay, yeah.
The founder of Fatal Games and Alpha Fatal. I don't know.
Maybe he must have slipped down the memory hole then.
Yeah.
Yeah, or he just had his one shot. He's like, all right, I made my masterpiece. I'm done.
Masterpiece.
He's like Dave Trampier. He's just driving a cab somewhere.
He just looks like a regular guy. I just looked up a picture. I was like, yeah, it's just some dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
How big is your vag? Yep.
But no, I do videos called Victor Makes a Character, though I haven't done one in a while. I need to get back to that, where I just like go to the character generation for like different games, and people always tell me I need to do Fatal and just silly games like that. I already did Thirsty Sword Lesbians, which actually lost me some subscribers. Yeah, because I played it perfectly straight. Like like people in the know like knew I was joking, but I like as far as the actual video went, I played it perfectly straight, and like I immediately lost like a couple of subscribers.
It's like playing with dynamite. Yeah, someone's gonna get hurt at some point. Yeah. I did a review of that early on in my channel too, and I guess my biggest lament is that I actually bought a copy of that, and I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah, I got passed one by somebody else, so I was lucky.
Yeah. I may give it away for like channel members or something. I'll autograph it, and I don't know, do something and get that thing out of my house.
I made one, or I made multiple like years ago, so I know kind of how it works. But I should do one for the channel. Yeah,
you should do one for your own books.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, GURPS was a game I always respected, but we never really played. Maybe it was just too generic, but we never really got that one to the table. But I ended up owning several GURPS source books. They were good just to have, just to refer to.
They always had great source books just for like setting information and just for flavor and stuff like that. So even if you didn't play the system, just having that information at your fingertips to even use for the other game was like awesome. And yeah, like GURPS has like some really great supplement. I remember one was called Black Ops, I think. And it's basically you're like a special forces team, like going up against aliens. It's like Man in Black meets like, Call of Duty or whatever. That was always cool. I remember one that was like all martial arts, was kind of like a kumite, like, you know, blood sport type tournament, and you could make like all these different characters. Like you could make like the old Sifu, and there was like the French like kickboxing sailor and like stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So I loved those books, but.
Yeah, I had a good one. I think it was on robots or androids or something. It got passed along to somebody else somewhere along the way. I don't have it anymore, but yeah, I always refer to that. Yes, soulless killers or something. It said on it, and it was one of my favorites. Just to kind of pick up on the John and just kind of read while I was taking a dump.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, definitely
long gone now. Like a lot of my old books. Some of them I don't even know where they went.
My buddy Brendan has talked about that. He's like, man, in his 20s, he sold off a bunch of books and got rid of them.
Yep.
And he had, he's like, the one thing he said he regrets the most is he had the Palladium TMNT game. And he's like, I wish I kept that book. And I think he had the one that had the sexual deviancy table, I think too, which is that's the one that goes for money because they changed that in some later printings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sexually deviant Ninja Turtles based.
Well, I think it was controversial because it had like, I think it had gay on there which, you know, at the time it was a product of its time, you know, like whatever.
I think it was like literally listed as like a deviancy and like, you know, the psychological blah blah blah, like manual of kinks or something. I don't know.
But apparently that version of it goes for like the later edited version still goes for a decent amount of money. But if you have like the unedited version, it's pretty sought after, I guess, just for that fact. All right. Well, I guess on sexual deviancy, we're getting towards the end of the stream. It's 10:05 in my time. We should try and go to 10:15. You said you only wanted to plug one thing, but I'm happy to let you plug whatever it is you're doing. Tell people.
Yeah, right now it's just the channel. Yeah, right now it's just the channel. I'm working on some things that hopefully I can sell down the line, but you know, I want it to be good quality. I don't want to just kind of pump out anything. So I'm working on an adventure. So we'll see how that goes. I want to start small, you know, just maybe like an OSR adventure you can just kind of throw in, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, for now, just tune into the channel, Diversity and Dragons. Take a look at the varied content I have. Like I said, I'll cover you know, some of the political stuff. I don't have a particular like, as many of you know, for the major Seattle gaming companies. I'm working on a video right now, kind of going back into that. You know, but I don't know if you want to hear some DM advice from somebody who's been doing it a while, you could watch that or watch my live plays and maybe come to the conclusion that I don't need to be taking advice from this guy. But you can at least throw those on and put it on in the background and see some old school around the table gaming. And the biggest thing we have, and they've been really successful, are live streams like this one every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
It's just me and my buddies, with occasional guests, and we're going to start to bring on folks in the chat if they have something to say, you know. But we kind of do some news of the day, some e-fapping. We've been doing a lot of Scott Garibay lately, just because just the crazy just keeps coming. So we know it's going to end sometime.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll occasionally e-fap some professional live plays. You know, just kind of. You know, we don't pick on like, a bunch of like small YouTubers or anything, but you know, like when like the D&D folks do a live play, you know, we'll look at those stuff like that. But you know, we'll also get into some kind of esoteric conversations. I remember a couple weeks or maybe like a month ago, we were kind of talking about the future of D&D. Does it have a future? Can it survive just on its own name? Is it, or is it, you know, as I posited, is chaos theory kind of dooming it? You know, things eventually do fall apart, you know, but to a certain extent, you know. So we'll occasionally do stuff like that. So I don't know if you like a potpourri style, I suppose I'm your guy. So
yeah,
if you want actual good stuff to buy, these guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I love being here too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
you
you're
have a
welcome.
Yeah, you
Our
guys
pleasure.
guys have a great thing going here, and I like your stuff too.
Vic,
Nice.
you got some new stuff going on right now. You have a subscribe star now.
Yeah, I have a subscribe store, which is like non-woke Patreon, basically. So I'll let me grab the link real quick.
Yeah, you throw it in the chat.
Yeah. This.
I've kind of been telling you to do something like that for a while, so I'm glad you finally did
Yeah.
it.
So you can subscribe to there and support me. You get like different perks, so including like sneak peeks and stuff I'm working on. I'm gonna try to do like little like supplements, like mini adventures and stuff like that. And then also, if you take the highest tier, you basically get like the full PDFs of like finished works for free once they're done. So check that out if you feel like, maybe supporting me. Other than that, you can find me throughout the week on different streams. I'm a regular on the Weekend Geek with T-shirt Historian. Like, obviously I'm the co-host on here. I have my own streams on Sunday called the Dutch Oven. So check that out. I'll drop my YouTube link real quick as well. And then if you're like interested in my products, I'm about to release my 5e modern book finally. That's like almost 2.5 years in the works, but it's almost done. I'm just basically going through and like taking some proofreading, just getting that done. And then I also recently released my modern supplement for old school essentials. So if you're more OSR, if you're more grognardy, check that out. I'll drop that in the chat too. That's almost at silver. I think I'm like 20 or something away from silver seller. So
Awesome.
check that out if you want.
Congrats.
And just see if there's anything that catches your interest across my various endeavors.
Cool. For me, I'm gonna have another video Wednesday as I normally do. I don't know what it's gonna be. I haven't made it yet. I'm kind of lagged behind. I've been working on my zine that I do for supporters because I have a subscribe star, and you can support Ungilded and right here on YouTube as well if you want to support the channel. But I'm working on the zine, and I'm realizing it's going to be a bigger bite to chew than I originally thought. But I'm going to get it done. So this zine number 6 is going to be like a whole island campaign, like it's starting an adventure sandbox setting. It's going to be like a 36 by 30 mile island that's full of like cultists and corrupted people and monsters and stuff like that. And so it'll be a cool little OSR, little sandboxy kind of game that you can kind of drop in wherever you have a large body of water and you want your players to be. And it's going to be on a timeline. I decided like it's a terrible place, but the players heard there's treasure here. And because it's terrible, maybe nobody else has come. So they're going to get dropped off via boat. And the captain's like, I'll see you in 60 days. You have 60 days in game time to explore and get some loot and not die. And I'll come back. And if you're alive, I'll take you back. So, and then it'll be a sandbox kind of thing. So that will be zine number 6, hopefully, if I can finish it. And I'm working on Obsidian and Blood. So Obsidian and Blood is coming along. I think I'm at 116 pages layout, and still doing art for it and everything. So that will be, I'm shooting for this year for releasing that. And there will be hopefully a Kickstarter for a nice offset print. I have a vision of like a nice book with like a foiled inlay Aztec calendar on it. And just nice print. So
Sweet.
thank you for checking that out if you do. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. But thank you, Scott from Diversity and Dragons, coming on. Everyone go subscribe to his channel. He's so close to 2K, so help him get there. And Vic needs to get to 1K. Vic has a channel too, so
I want to get to 1K at least.
Yeah.
I want to get super chats.
Vic is close to 1K, so I want to see Vic get there too. So thank you for coming on. It means a lot that you could come on and talk to us. I wanted to talk to you for a while, and we'll have to have you on again.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I love talking with you guys. It's a lot of familiar faces in the chat too, so it's like going to the neighbor's house for a barbecue.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, check out Diversity in Dragons. He has a cool channel. Check out Vic and what he's working on. Check out his Subscribe Star. And if there's nothing else, I guess we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone.